Hey everyone, it's Anson here from Weekend Garage. Today I'll be showing you guys the cost of ownership and what to look out for when purchasing a W219 CLS. So I've had this car for about 14 years, so I know the ins and outs and everything with this vehicle. So some of these items are going to be general maintenance and the others are going to be vehicle specific. I'm going to share the whole list with you guys and you guys can make your own judgment. Number one, the most expensive repair for this vehicle was the TCM, which is the transmission control module, and that failed because there was a lack of power which caused the transmission computer to fail. That costed around $6,000 Canadian for a brand new transmission control module from Germany. It had to be reprogrammed by specialists. Even though I brought it to a independent mechanic shop, it costed 6,000 Canadian dollars. And this was more than 7 years ago. So if we're looking at it in today's dollar value, it's going to be even higher. So if you want to prevent that from happening, it's very simple. We want to make sure the battery is newer than 5 years. If not, change it out. It's cheaper to replace the battery, which is located in the trunk over in the corner right there, than it is so I have two H8 AGM batteries, which is double the capacity, to ensure that all the electronics that it's running on has enough power wherever the vehicle is. When the vehicle is not being driven, it's plugged in to a battery tender. Not being driven as in 3 to 7 days, I would plug it in. Why not? I don't drive this car every day. So with the dual battery setup, I noticed it shifts a lot better. Required amperage required for shifting, and all the electronics, the lighting on the doors and interior, it's bright all the time. There's no drop even when I'm starting the vehicle. So there's a light at every footwell. There's ambient lighting up top. And there's also a door light here, which I turned it off, and another door light down there. So there's a lot of electricals and lighting on this vehicle. Next up, it's the frameless windows. The front ones are notorious for going bad for the regulators. I've only gone through a set for this vehicle, one for the passenger and one for the driver. Those were only maybe 200 bucks. Not too expensive. I did it myself. It's pretty straightforward. Close every time you open and close these doors. It'll open a little bit like that. When you close it, it seals right up. Don't let this scare you away. It's a pretty straightforward installation. So if it does break, it's no big deal. It's very cheap. It shares a similar regulator with the E-Class, and now there's so many of these old vehicles laying around. There's a lot of aftermarket parts. So it's very cheap. There's tutorials online on how to change it. So I wouldn't be too worried about that. It was 200 because I did it myself. It took maybe an hour. So next up, we go into the vehicle. As you can see, it's pretty much brand new condition. Not even wear on any of the seats. So now that we're in the vehicle, another item I had to replace was the heater valve mixer. An issue that it was causing was that the rear vents were blowing hot air even though the AC was on, and the front was blowing cold, or vice versa. That part was around $180. I did it myself. We have a tutorial on how to do it. It's pretty straightforward. It was just an engine bay, no big deal. And a third item that had gone bad in this vehicle was the blower motor. It didn't actually fully go bad. It was making a very quiet noise that I found it was annoying. However, my passengers didn't notice, but I replaced that anyways. That was a couple $100. So another item to look for is in the rear of the vehicle. Sometimes it leaks if you leave the vehicle parked outside for too long. There's a simple repair for it, but if it's already leaked and the water's gotten onto the antenna splitter, it'll cause a malfunction on your radios and your SOS system, which will cause a system power cycle every time it's shorted out. But once you clean the contacts on that splitter and seal up the leak, this will no longer be an issue. So that was maybe $10 in cleaning supplies and alcohol just to clean up the splitter. So if we're looking at the rear left of the vehicle, where the shark fin antenna is up top, there's a cable that runs on the edge here, and the water underneath this trim is where it intrudes into the vehicle, and then there's a splitter on the side there that the water follows and erodes over time. So if you pick up your rear trunk cover and you see that there's some rust, some surface rust on the metal, you know there's been water intrusion there. So look out for that popping noise on your radio and that SOS malfunction if it's already leaked. Simple fix, no big deal. Now we're going to go ahead and pop the hood open to show you guys the mechanical work that was done. As you can see, it's still very new looking in 2014 or 2024 in our case. So here we have the engine bay. It's a pleasure to work on because there's a special clip on these two edges that you can fold the hood 90 degrees. So this is completely out of the way and lighting will shine on there perfectly. We had replaced the valve cover gaskets, spark plugs, oil filter housing cooler gaskets, coolant return line, but that's because this vehicle is around 18 years old. So these are regular maintenance items in our opinion. For an 18-year-old vehicle, it is bone dry in the pan. You believe it? Check it out. The block is bone dry for an 18-year-old German vehicle, which is how we like to keep our vehicles very clean and running new. You want to check your coolant. We had done a coolant flush with the Mercedes or the Xerox G05 or something, the blue fluid. Make sure you have fluid in your coolant and it's not brown. If it's brown, it means you got rust in your system. There is the power steering fluid. We had flushed that as well. All these tutorials are on our video. If you already have the vehicle and you want to learn how to do it, it's fairly straightforward. Even easier to work on than today's vehicles because you don't have to perform a reset on the adaptation on the computer after you're finished. So it's mechanical hydraulic steering. There is the reservoir. It's easy to cycle through. You can open it, check the color of your fluid. So that was maybe $100, $200 in fluids. We went with OEM Mercedes, which was the green CHF 110 fluid, if I recall correctly. So we do have the SBC system here. As you can see, SBC. Everyone panics about the system because it was in the McLaren SLR, it was in the Maybachs, it was in S65s, E-classes, you name it. All the high-end vehicles had this. It's pretty much an automated pump for your braking system. Instead of having a master cylinder there and manually pumping the system, this pre-pressurizes your brake. So your brake pedal is actually a sensor for this to determine how much brake pressure to give to each individual line. People panic when they see a system like this. They think it's really expensive, but it's really not. You can look on eBay and parts stores. There's replacement parts everywhere for this. And if you were to change the brake and brake pads like we have done here, you can see you do not need a computer or do the special procedures. We have a tutorial. All you have to do is lift up this connector, disconnect it, open your brake reservoir, your brake fluid reservoir, and you can just change the brakes on all four sides. Once you're finished, you just plug it back in. There's going to be no errors, no resets required. It's just like any other vehicle. So if people are scaring you to not purchase an SBC system, and this vehicle is 18 years of lifetime, it's been perfectly fine. Next up, it's the Airmatic system, which is the air suspension for the front and rear. So when you're driving on the highway, it'll automatically lower. And if there's a speed bump where you're going into a parkade, there's a lift vehicle button in the center console. You press it and it'll raise up so you won't scrape this nice vehicle. That's a pleasure to have. It's the best riding vehicle I've been in. It's like sitting on a cloud. So these are the lines. It's still holding up perfectly fine. All we had to do was replace two of the front struts in this 18-year-old vehicle's lifetime. It's costed maybe $2,000 within itself. Fairly straightforward. Lots of tutorials online. We also replaced the belt just as a maintenance item. When we had completed the TCM reprogramming and TCM replacement, we did the gasket for that part, which the transmission's attached to the engine. We did all those gaskets, and the transmission fluid has all been flushed and replaced. That was included in that $6,000 price back in the day. So we had also replaced the differential fluids oil changes. These are all regular wear and tear in my opinion. We also had to replace the crankshaft position sensor, which can be reached from here. That was maybe 100 something bucks. You can do it yourself, fairly easy. The air filters for the cabin, which is located right there, very easy to replace. Engine air filters, very easy to replace right here. That is pretty much it for the engine bay. It is a very solid engine, M113 5-liter V8. Even the Mercedes dealership is telling me that this is the most reliable engine besides the leaks, which have all been addressed with the valve cover gaskets and the oil coolant gaskets, or the oil cooler gaskets. Now we're going to step into the vehicle. As you can see, it can stop anywhere along the door. We want to check for the door checks right here. As you close it, it'll make a noise if it's already shot. You can go in and replace those. So the replacement for door checks, they're about $150 each. It's not too annoying yet, so I haven't replaced it yet. It's not very noticeable. That's what it sounds like. There's even hardware that's real metal here, leather, and more chrome on the edge here. It's all very fine leather. It's barely aged on the interior. Check out the quality on the leather. I would say that it's even better than 95% of the leather that's being made in the German vehicles today. When you move the seat right here, it automatically moves the headrests with it. See? They thought about everything when making this vehicle. So this is a 2006 CLS 500. It's now got 161,000 kilometers. It feels like it's still brand new in the interior. All the mechanical is flawless. There's no weird noises or hiccups. So this is the total amount that it's cost to own this vehicle over 14 years, which I would say is not that bad, because the major expense was because of the TCM issue, which won't happen if you have a consistent battery voltage. Like I told you guys, either run brand new batteries or 2 brand new batteries if you want to run the electronics all the time. And another trick to show you guys to make it last longer is, here's another trick to make the vehicle last longer. When you get in the vehicle, as you start it, you want to put on engine on. So it wakes up all the electronics. Fuel injectors are all primed. Everything's woken up. Give it around 3 to 5 seconds and then fully ignite the vehicle and start the engine. This has reduced a lot of problems for older German vehicles and even newer supercars like on McLarens. Even on the new ones, this is what they recommend. On Paganis, all the hypercars, supercars, or cars in general, this is what you should do. Let it run for a little bit, 3 to 10 seconds before fully starting it. So considering the price of this vehicle now on the market, it's not that expensive to maintain, especially with all these aftermarket parts and these tutorials online if you can do it yourself. It's a very robust vehicle. It's like a tank when you're sitting in here. It's heavy, the doors are very solid. It's got all the creature comforts that you want in the brand new luxury vehicle as well. It's even got the home link buttons up here. You've even got the garage home link buttons up here. You've got ambient lighting all inside the vehicle. You've got a SOS button. You've got a powered sunroof. You can even just turn on the rear lights if you want for your passengers. This is probably made for a vehicle with a driver and the owner sitting in the back. So after owning all these vehicles, this vehicle right here, even though it's the oldest one I have, it is the best to drive on the highways and on long distances because it's so quiet and comfortable, and it lowers itself on the highway. It's so planted. There's enough power. It's a big V8. It's such a great car. It doesn't feel like it's aged. The interior is holding up beautifully, as you guys have seen. And the exterior, it's still one of a kind. You don't see these all the time. And it's a very uncommon vehicle, at least where I am in Canada, North America. With proper maintenance, I'm sure these can go to 500,000 kilometers on the original engine. My engine, I opened it up. I saw there's no sludge. There's no odd wear and tear anywhere in the engine. So, and I'm at 161,000 kilometers. Imagine this being double. I don't think it'll be an issue at all. If you guys are looking at vehicles that are very beat up and it's not been cared for, you've got cigarette holes in the leather and the wheels all worn out, then your mileage may vary. You're probably going to get a problematic vehicle. My vehicle hasn't been too problematic and expensive because I've been taking care of it. If you ignore the problems, one thing lead to another, and there'll be major repairs. Just like if I ignored the battery, the TCM is going to fail. That's with everything in these German cars. If you fix it early, if I had to replace the battery earlier, even though it was giving me battery low alerts, I may have got past the TCM issue, but I ignored it and my TCM blew up. That's with everything else in this vehicle. If you need an oil change or you need to change the belt or a certain item, if you don't do it, it's going to blow up on you. It's just a matter of time. So if you do all the maintenance on time or early, this vehicle will never leave you stranded. It's never left me stranded in 161,000 kilometers. Starts up every time flawlessly. So I hope this video has informed you guys on if this vehicle is a good buy. You can now make a decision if the vehicle you're looking at is a good buy. For me, personally, I would buy it again if I had the choice. It's just an amazing vehicle, and at this price point nowadays, you can't even get any Japanese or Korean cars at this price point. And this is much more solid, real leather, robust, and you know it's going to run forever when the maintenance is done properly. Anyways, if you guys got any questions, you can email us at info@weekendgarage.com or leave a comment down below and we'll answer your questions. Thank you for watching, everyone. Hope you have a wonderful day.